Welcome back to the Deep Dive, the show where we take these incredibly dense professional sources and try to translate them into something you can use right away.
Today, we've got a fantastic stack. We're looking at the actual architectural records and professional practices right from the services of KING-KAMBUF's architecture design studios.
And we're zeroing in on a topic that is so critical, but often, gets a bit overlooked.
It really does.
Project management. Specifically, PjM Topic 17.
That's right. Running effective coordination and client meetings. We're talking agendas, minutes, decisions, and the big one, follow through.
Yeah, the follow-through. And this isn't just about, putting an hour on the calendar for Tuesday afternoon.
No, not at all.
We are going to be dissecting the absolute mechanics of communication. This is that friction point where these incredible high-level design concepts either start becoming reality.
Or they just collapse.
Right. They collapse under the weight of ambiguity. And the failures, they're not usually these big dramatic moments. They're administrative.
That's a perfect way to put it. We're going to formalize this concept that we call the project manager's meeting machine.
The meeting machine. I like that.
You really have to see it that way. It's this systematic engine for your project. It's the mechanism that takes all this raw, messy input. The owner's worried about the budget, the engineer has technical constraints, the city has demands.
All these conflicting things.
All of it. And it converts that raw input into clear, structured, and most importantly, documented decisions. And then trackable actions that get assigned to people.
So if that machine breaks down, the whole project just grinds to a halt.
Or worse, it starts running full speed in the completely wrong direction.
Okay, so what's the core thesis for this deep dive then? Why is this so vital for you, the listener, especially if you're, say, studying for the PjM section of the AR?
Okay, the core thesis is this. Meetings are not, I repeat, not just talk time. They are, first and foremost, essential risk control tools. The stuff that comes out of a meeting, the agenda you wrote beforehand, the minutes you write after that documentation is the formal link. It connects your work plan to how you execute the work, to how you control the quality at the end.
So for the ARE, the test isn't just about design.
No, the test is checking to see if you manage risk. And this documentation process is how you actively manage risk.
So the stakes are actually incredibly high. We're really talking about preventing that one project-killing moment.
That's it.
The one that you know is going to lead to a claim down the road where everyone's standing in a room looking at each other and it finally comes out. Wait a minute, we thought you were doing this.
Ugh, the worst sentence in project management.
That ambiguity, as you said, is basically just a claim waiting to happen.
Yep, it is, exactly. And the source material from KING-KAMBUF really hammers this home. Discipline, effective meeting management is like your firm's internal insurance policy. It's what protects you from confusion, from costly rework, and, from potential litigation.
Okay, that sets the stage perfectly. Yeah. Which brings us to this first big idea, this powerful reframe for a lot of designers.
Yeah.
The idea that meetings are fundamentally a form of contract administration.
Yes.
And a core part of your formal risk management. They are project artifacts, not social events.
And when you dig into the data, like the real data on why architectural claims happen, it's fascinating.
It's not what you'd think.
It's not what you think at all. It refutes this idea that claims come from some big, dramatic, creative design mistake.
Right, a cantilever collapsing or something.
Exactly. Most of the time, claims are caused by just systemic documentation failures. We're talking about things like ambiguous decisions, a key owner approval that was never actually written down.
It was just a nod in a meeting.
Just a nod. Or, and this one is maybe the most dangerous, you have consultants working off entirely different, unstated assumptions about who is supposed to do what.
So the failure isn't the structural engineer miscalculating a beam load. The failure is in the meeting minutes where the engineer was asked to check the beam depth. But the owner never formally approved the fee increase for that extra work. It's a process failure.
Precisely. The liability isn't about the technical error itself. It's about the lack of a documented paper trail that shows you followed the contract, you communicated the impact, and you assigned the responsible party.
And if we're looking at this through the ARE lens, specifically the project management division, the exam is constantly pushing a specific professional sequence, a way an architect must act.
It's the absolute foundation of the PjM mindset. When an exam question gives you a scenario, conflict or a decision that needs to be made, and asks, what should the architect do next?
There's a right answer.
There's a right sequence. Always. It's 3 steps in this order. First, define the decision needed. You have to be able to state the exact problem, option A or option B.
Get it down to that level of clarity.
Yes. Second, document it in writing. This has to be minutes or a memo or some kind of formal transmittal. A verbal agreement is not enough. And third, assign an action with a specific due date.
Who, what, and when.
If you miss any one of those three, you've left the project exposed to risk. And that structured approach is what turns a casual chat into a verifiable contractual project artifact.
Define, document, assign. That's it. That's the bedrock of PjM.
That's the whole game.
Okay, so let's get specific. The KING-KAMBUF material is meticulous about categorizing the different kinds of meetings a PM has to run. And this isn't just like bureaucracy for its own sake, is it?
No. Understanding the meeting type dictates everything. It dictates the agenda, who you invite, and what you need to get out of it.
It's mission control.
It really is. You have to know the goal before you even schedule it. Otherwise, you invite the wrong people and you waste everyone's time talking about the wrong things. So there are 5 distinct types in what we call the PjM meeting stack.
Okay, what's the first one?
First, you have the client-owner meeting. This is what we call the decision forum.
Decision forum. So high stakes.
The highest. Its goal is singular. You are there to confirm scope changes, to check on the budget, to review the schedule, and to lock in design direction. But most of all, you are there to get formal, documented approvals.
So the output is basically contractual.
It is. If you walk out of an owner meeting without documented approval on a key decision, you didn't just have a bad meeting, you've exposed the entire project financially.
That's the high-level governance. Okay, so what about the people who are actually, drawing the lines?
Yeah.
The second type is the internal project team meeting.
Right. This is the production forum. This meeting looks inward. It's all about execution and efficiency.
The engine room.
Exactly. The goals here are coordinating who's doing what task, checking on internal deadlines, making sure the firm's QA/QC plan is actually being followed,
Right.
and being super strict about what is getting issued this week and who is responsible for checking it before it goes out the door. If this meeting is a mess, the team just spins its wheels and burns fee.
Okay, then we widen the circle. The third type, consultant coordination.
This is the integration forum. This is pure technical problem solving. The whole goal is alignment.
Getting everyone on the same page.
Literally, you're resolving clashes. Is a duct hitting a beam? Is there a technical sequencing issue? You're locking down shared assumptions. For example, okay, everyone, we're all assuming the roof deck is metal, not concrete, right?
You have to get that stuff in writing.
You have to. And you're agreeing on deliverable formats and milestone dates. This is the meeting where all the separate documents from all the different consultants start to actually become one buildable design.
And I can see already, when we get to the case study later, how a failure right here in this forum causes just massive downstream problems.
Oh, it's the classic failure point. If the consultants aren't truly integrating their work, the project is just a theoretical exercise. It's not real.
Okay, fourth type. The source material says this one is often undervalued. User group meetings.
Massively undervalued,
Yes.
especially on big institutional jobs, hospitals, labs, schools. This is the requirements forum.
This feels like it's about proactive risk mitigation, preventing surprises.
That's exactly what it is. The whole goal is to capture the detailed needs from the people who will actually use the building.
The nurses, the teachers, the facility staff.
Yes, you have to prevent those late stage, oh wait, we assumed the patient rooms would have a sink outside the bathroom type of surprises.
Which would be a nightmare to fix in the middle of construction documents.
A nightmare. Capturing those needs early, documenting them, getting sign-off on them, it drastically reduces costly changes when the drawings are supposedly 90% done.
Okay, and the fifth and final type, the one that's totally non-negotiable for just moving the project forward. Agency AHJ utility meetings.
Right, this is the risk form. And for anyone listening, AHJ means authority having jurisdiction.
Your building department, fire marshal, planning office.
All of them. The goal here is simple. De-risk the project. You're trying to de-risk code compliance, zoning issues, your whole permitting path by getting official documented direction from them.
So if the chief building official says your weird egress scare design is okay.
You get that in the minutes. With their name and their title printed clearly, these meetings turn potential showstoppers into verified, documented steps forward. They are literally the keys to getting a building permit.
So to sum it all up, that R mindset isn't just about being a good designer. It's about seeing every single interaction, every phone call, every meeting through that 3-step risk control lens.
Define the decision, document it, and assign the action. And knowing the meeting type just helps you see the risk before it even happens.
Okay, so if we accept that meetings are these contractual risk control events, then the prep work becomes, everything.
It's paramount.
Which brings us to the agenda. And I love this framing from the sources. They call the agenda the PM's pre-meeting scope control. You've basically won half the battle before anyone's even joined the call.
It's a perfect description, isn't it? The agenda is, for all intents and purposes, a mini work plan for that 1 hour. If you send out a really strong agenda 24 hours ahead of time,
You're setting the term.
you've unilaterally controlled the scope, you've set crystal clear expectations for what you need to get out of it, and you've just, dramatically cut down the chance of the conversation going off on some tangent.
So let's break down the anatomy of a really strong agenda. A vague list of bullet points is not going to cut it. What are the non-negotiable parts?
Okay, you start with what we call the header essentials,
Yep.
the basics, right? Project name, the meeting type we just talked about, client decision forum, internal production, whatever it is.
Date, time, link, attendees.
All that. But the most critical piece of the header is the purpose, a clear statement of purpose. What are we actually trying to achieve here today?
And it has to be an outcome, not just a topic.
Yes, that's the key. You have to write purpose to secure formal approval of the final HVAC system type and its budget impact. Not just purpose. Discuss mechanicals.
One is actionable, the other is just a conversation.
Exactly. If the purpose isn't clear, people show up completely unprepared.
I think the most powerful part of the agenda, though, according to the KING-KAMBUF material, is the structure, the flow and priority of the items. It basically teaches everyone in the meeting what's important.
It does. It trains them. And the structure has to follow one golden rule. Decision items first.
Always at the top.
Always. Why? Because those are the only things that actually move the project forward. They carry the most financial and schedule risk, and they require the full brainpower of the most expensive people in that room.
The owner, the lead consultants.
Right. So even if the meeting gets cut short or someone goes off on a tangent for 10 minutes, you've already handled the high-value, high-risk items. You got the win.
It's just ruthlessly efficient. If you bury the decision on the $5 million curtain wall system at the bottom of the agenda, and somebody wastes 30 minutes talking about site logistics,
The project just lost money. You let low-value noise sabotage a high-value decision. So after decisions, then you have information items second.
and these have to be managed carefully.
Very carefully. These are for quick updates only. A schedule milestone was hit, a submittal is in. The PM has to be a hawk here and enforce the rule that these items cannot expand into a big discussion.
And what if they do? What if an info item sparks a debate?
The PM has to shut it down. Politely, but firmly. You say, that's a great point. It sounds like we need a decision on that. I'm adding it to the decision section for next week's agenda. You table it and move on.
That role of being the time and scope enforcer, that's probably the hardest part of being a PM.
It is, but it's the most necessary. You're the guardian of the budget and the clock. And then finally, you always close the meeting by closing the loop. You end with action review last.
Looking backwards to go forwards.
Precisely. This is where accountability lives. You pull up the minutes from the last meeting, and you go down the action list. Did everyone do what they said they were going to do? If not, why not? What's blocking you? And what's the new due date?
It makes the whole process cyclical. So here's the core rule from the sources, and it's like the ultimate filter for any agenda item. If an item does not explicitly end in a decision, an action, or a deliverable,
It's probably noise.
it's noise, and it should be deleted or handled offline with a quick email or turned into a separate, focused discussion.
If you just apply that one filter, you will cut, I'm not kidding, probably 40% of the dead time out of your meetings. The time savings, which we're going to quantify later, are just, they're staggering.
Okay, so we've planned the meeting with a killer agenda. Now we're in it, and we're documenting the outcomes. The minutes, the sources call them the defensible documentation.
The legal quality record.
But, and this is a huge caveat they stress, minutes are absolutely not a transcript.
This is such a common failure point for new PMs. They try to capture every little thing everyone said, the whole back and forth.
And what happens?
You just bury the important stuff. The document becomes vague, it's hard to find the actual conclusion, and frankly, it's legally weak because it's full of subjective comments. The whole point of minutes is not to record what was said. It's to record what was concluded and assigned.
So precise, neutral, results-focused.
That's it.
So what absolutely has to be in there to make it that defensible legal record, the source material gives us this acronym, D, A, O, and R.
Right, so D, first and most important, is decisions made. And you need total clarity here. What was the specific question? What option was chosen? And just as important, what option was explicitly rejected and why?
So, for example, owner chose finished package aspen, which was option B, and formally rejected option A, birch, due to its higher cost.
Perfect. That's legally defensible. Next is A, for action items assigned. This is the accountability section, and it's useless unless you have 3 pieces of information for every single action.
Who, what, and when.
Who, a specific person's name, not the design team. What, the specific measurable task. And when, an actual calendar date, not ASAP or next week.
That granularity is what closes the loop.
It is. Third is O, for open issues and next steps. These are the things you discussed but couldn't solve. Maybe you're waiting on pricing, maybe you need more research. You have to formally table them and carry them to the next agenda so they don't get forgotten.
So they don't fall through the cracks.
And finally, R is for referenced attachments or exhibits. Any sketches you looked at, budget sheets, diagrams, you have to list them in the minutes. That formally links the decision you made to the evidence you used to make it.
This brings us to a really critical point.
Out.
Tone and risk mitigation. Projects can get contentious. Disputes happen. How do you handle that in the minutes when a disagreement is starting to brew?
The source material is very, very clear on this. You have to keep the minutes strictly neutral and factual.
No editorializing.
0. You must avoid subjective language at all costs. Never, ever write things like, the owner was being unreasonable, or the consultant failed to deliver.
That's just asking for trouble.
It's so dangerous in a legal context. It just gives the other side an easy way to attack the objectivity of your entire record.
Okay, so give me a real-world example. The owner is dragging their feet on a cladding decision, and it's holding up the whole project. How do you document that factually without injecting emotion or blame?
You describe the objective facts, and this is key, the impact. So instead of saying the owner delayed again, you write something like this. Item 1. Architect presented the 3 final cladding options with updated pricing on May 15th.
Factual.
Item 2. No selection was made during the June 1st meeting. Item 3. Owner stated a need for further internal review and will provide a decision by June 15th. And then the most important sentence.
The impact.
Item 4. Impact. This 2-week delay in decision-making is projected to cause a minimum 3-week delay to the critical path for material procurement.
Wow. So you're not blaming them, you're just stating the contractual reality.
Exactly. It protects the architect by showing you followed a clear process and you formally identified the consequences of their inaction. The minutes become an act of professional self-defense.
Okay, so the agenda sets the direction, the minutes create the record. Now we get to where the real momentum is won or lost, the follow-through.
This is everything.
The sources state this so clearly. The difference between a great project manager and a stressed-out, constantly firefighting PM is the discipline of maintaining a closed action loop.
A closed loop means a decision isn't just a conversation that happened. It's a mechanism that creates work. If a decision is made but no one is assigned to act on it, that decision had 0 value. It was just hot air.
So every single action item needs to be held to a very high trackable standard.
A very specific standard. There are 5 data points that have to go with every action item you record and track.
Okay, let's list them out.
First, the owner, a named individual. Accountable. Second, the task. Specific and measurable, not look into the foundation, but draft RFI to structural regarding waterproofing detail at the slab edge.
Clear. Third, the due date. A real date.
Now here's where we get into the more advanced stuff, the kind of thinking the ARE tests on. The 4th data point is the dependency.
What needs to happen before this can happen?
Exactly. It's so often overlooked. If the MEP can't size the rooftop unit until the structural engineer confirms the load capacity, then that load confirmation is a dependency. Tracking this lets the PM get ahead of bottlenecks. You become proactive instead of reactive.
Love that. And what's the 5th point?
The status. This is what you review every week. Is it new, in progress, complete? Or the important one, blocked. Blocked means you're stuck waiting on someone else, and that needs to be escalated.
So these 5 points turn a simple to-do list into a dynamic project dashboard.
That's a great way to put it.
So how do you enforce this? How do you create that culture of accountability meeting after meeting?
You build the accountability mechanism right into the meeting structure. It has to be the very first agenda item of the next meeting. After you say hello, the first thing you do is review of previous actions.
You start by looking back.
Always. If you don't dedicate that time to go through every single open item from the week before, things will slip. I promise you. Momentum dies and the action loop breaks.
Okay, and there's a critical practical standard in the King-Kambuf material about the timing of all this. It says minutes must be sent out within a really tight window, 24 to 48 hours. Why is that so important?
It's about human psychology, really, and project risk. The longer you wait to send out the minutes, the more negotiable the record becomes in people's minds.
Interesting. So memory starts to shift.
It shifts, or people strategically claim it shifts. If I send minutes 2 weeks late, someone can easily say, huh, that's not how I remember that conversation at all, and now you're in a debate about reality.
Whereas sending them the next morning.
It does two things. First, the conversation is fresh in everyone's mind, so the facts are cemented right away. And second, it forces anyone who disagrees with your record to speak up immediately, while it's still current. Delay is just another word for accumulating risk.
Okay, let's apply all this theory now. We're going to dive into a case study, a real-world failure drawn right from the files of the services of King-Kambuf PS.
This is where the rubber meets the road.
We're moving from the concepts to the consequences. What happens when these principles of documentation and meeting management fail in the real world?
And this scenario is such a classic. It's death by ambiguity, and it happens in that consultant coordination meeting, the integration forum.
So set the scene for us. What's the project context?
It's complex, which is where risk loves to hide. It's a 4-story mixed-use building. You've got retail on the ground floor, 48 residential units above, all over a concrete podium.
And the site.
A tight urban site in a high seismic zone with a consultant team that's spread out, not all in one office, so that complexity just amplifies every communication risk.
Okay, so here's the problem. During a weekly consultant coordination call, just a routine call, the MEP engineer flags a problem. A big duct run is clashing with a primary structural beam.
Happens all the time.
And a solution is offered, very casually. The group agrees, okay, MEP will just reroute the ducts to go around the beam. And crucially, this whole conversation happens under information items, not decision items.
And that's the first mistake. But here's the fatal one, the documentation error. The meeting minutes just say, action, MEP to reroute ducts.
That's it.
That's it. The action item is missing the responsible person's name, it's missing a due date, and the absolute killer mistake. The crucial impact of that rerouting on the ceiling height is never discussed, never analyzed, and never assigned to anyone to verify.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So fast forward 2 weeks. The interiors consultant starts laying out the corridor details, and they discover that this rerouted ductwork eats up 14 inches of plenum space.
Which is a huge amount.
And it drops the finished ceiling height in the main egress corridors below the minimum required by building code. And the owner, who is locked into a very aggressive financial pro forma for their bank loan, just flat out refuses the $150,000 cost increase it would take to fix it.
So now you have a major cost issue, a schedule delay, and a code violation, all born from one ambiguous line in a set of meeting minutes. The architect is completely exposed.
So how does a competent PM, following the standard of care in the King-Kambuf records, fix this? What are the 6 steps?
Okay, you have to be surgical and you have to be formal. Step 1, stop the bleed.
Triage.
Immediately. You confirm the status of that reroute ducts instruction. Was that a real decision authorized by the owner or just a brainstorm? You halt all production work in that area and you find the factual origin of the failure.
The ambiguity.
Exactly. Then step 2, issue a rapid decision memo. This is not another email chain. It's a formal 1-page document.
And what's in it?
It has to detail the background of the clash, the constraints like code minimums, the available options, structural rework versus a different duct system, the direct impacts of each option on cost and schedule, and finally, the architect's formal documented recommendation.
You're forcing the decision maker to confront the consequences in writing.
You are, and that memo is the ticket to step 3, which is to run a targeted coordination meeting. Not a general check-in. The agenda is laser-focused. Goal A, agree on the absolute minimum clearances. Goal B, pick option A or B from the memo. Goal C, assign the rework tasks with firm due dates.
Okay, decision made. Now you have to control the drawings so people don't keep working off the old, wrong information.
That's step 4. Update the model and drawings with a controlled revision. The second that decision is made, you issue a dated, clouded sketch or a formal bulletin. You kill the old version to prevent that which one are we working on chaos.
Then you close the loop.
Step 5. Lock the follow-through. The minutes from that targeted meeting must be crystal clear. They record the final decision, they name the people responsible for the rework, list the due dates, and specify exactly which revised drawings need to be reissued.
That closes the action loop on the problem. And what's the final step? The one for the firm itself.
Step 6. You implement a formal QA/QC step based on this failure. You add a permanent item to your firm's internal checklist for future projects. Something like verify all egress corridor ceiling heights against coordinated MEP and structural insection. You learn from the mistake so it can't happen again.
So when you, our listener, get a question like this on the ARE, what's the best next action? The answer is never just have another discussion.
Never. The standard of care, the KING-KAMBUF standard, is always document plus assign plus verify. Process and documentation are your only shields against risk.
Okay, we've gone from the tactical to the real-world consequences. Let's zoom back out and look at the whole system. The source material talks about something called the meeting documentation triangle.
Yeah, this is such a great mental model for a PM. It shows how the three core documentation tools have to work together. They're codependent.
So walk us through the three sides of the triangle.
Okay, so at the top, you have the agenda. That happens before the meeting. It's your intent. It defines what you need to decide. Then on one side, you have the minutes. That's during and after. That's the legal record. It documents what was decided and who's on the hook for it.
Yeah, and the third side.
That's the action log, which lives between meetings. That's the engine. It's the living proof that the decision was turned into tracked, accountable work.
And the concept really clicks when you think about what happens when one side of that triangle is missing. The whole system just collapses.
It completely falls apart. If you have no agenda, your meeting turns into a therapy session.
All talk, no outcome.
Exactly. If you have no minutes, your decisions become folklore. Just a shared story that everyone remembers a little bit differently. And, maybe most importantly, if you have no action log, even with perfect minutes, then nothing actually happens. The commitments just evaporate the second the meeting ends. The triangle has to be complete.
Let's bring in the hard numbers now. Because bad meetings aren't just annoying, they are a massive financial liability.
A huge drain. The material provides this quick calculation, this ROI check, that every PM should have burned into their brain.
Okay, so let's do the math.
All right, imagine a pretty standard coordination meeting. You have 8 attendees, maybe the architect's team, structural, MEP, the owner's rep.
Pretty standard group?
The meeting runs for 60 minutes, and we'll use a conservative blended labor rate of, say, $150 an hour per person to cover their salary, benefits, firm overhead.
Okay, so 8 highly paid professionals for 1 hour. The math is
8 people times 1 hour times $150 an hour equals $1,200 total labor cost.
$1,200 for a single 1-hour meeting.
Yes. And when you put a price tag like that on an hour of talking, it really forces you to think about efficiency.
It changes the whole dynamic.
It has to. The interpretation is simple, and it's brutal. If that $1,200 meeting doesn't produce a high-value outcome, a decision that prevents $2,000 in rework, or an approval that unlocks the next phase of work, then that meeting was a financial loss.
That's 2 full days of a junior architect's time, just gone.
Just gone. Now imagine running 5 of those ineffective meetings a week. The cumulative financial damage is just staggering. It's why you have to put decision items first and be ruthless about scope creep.
Okay, now let's go to the highest stakes scenario of all. The intersection of this process and professional ethics.
This is where your professional duty really gets put to the test.
The ethical scenario is this. Your client pulls you aside and asks you to keep the minutes light. They specifically want you to leave out the direction they just gave to reduce a life safety scope item. Let's say making a fire-rated corridor narrower to save money.
And they'll say something like, hey, we have a great relationship, we trust each other.
Right. This is that moment where the PM has to choose between keeping the client happy and protecting public safety. What is the definitive standard of care response?
The standard is absolute. It's defined by our professional oath. Public health, safety, and welfare come first, period. You must document all decisions that affect scope, cost, schedule, and especially health and safety.
So there's no wiggle room.
None. If a client's direction creates a risk, a code violation, a safety issue, you have an affirmative duty to advise against it, to document your advice in writing, and to propose compliant alternatives.
You cannot intentionally weaken the record to protect your client's budget.
You cannot. Your minutes have to stay neutral in tone, but they cannot be intentionally incomplete when public welfare is on the line. Your documentation, the minutes, the memo you write warning them of the risk, that becomes your proof that you upheld your professional duty.
It's professional maturity in action.
It is. If they insist, your documentation has to show you fought it. It protects the firm from catastrophic liability down the line.
Okay, so we've covered the tactics, the ethics, the cost. Let's bring it all together. How does this connect to a high-level exam strategy for our listeners studying for the PjM section of the ARE?
Think about test day. When you get a case study and the exhibits include an agenda or meeting minutes, the exam is testing your mastery of process.
They're looking for a specific sequence.
A very specific sequence. Did the architect document the decision? Yes or no? Did they assign responsibility to a named person? Yes or no? Did they follow the contract process for a change? If the documentation doesn't exist, then, professionally speaking, the action never happened.
This is what we call the process over vibes.
Oh, absolutely. You have to be so careful of answers on the exam and in your career that just feel collaborative or friendly, but have no formal documentation behind them.
They're traps.
They're traps. If you have two choices, always pick the one that creates a written, verifiable record, ties that record to the contract, and assigns the next action to a specific person with a due date. The ARE rewards process and clarity, not just good intentions.
Okay, let's wrap this with the key takeaways. If you, the listener, remember nothing else from this deep dive, what are the absolute mission-critical points from the KING-KAMBUF sources?
Okay, number one, meetings exist for one reason: to produce decisions and actions. That's it. Discussion is just the tool to get there. If you don't get that output, you wasted that $1,200 hour.
Number two, on your agenda, put decision items first, every time. And be a hawk about not letting info items turn into long discussions. And always, always roll your action items forward to the next meeting.
Third, minutes capture decisions, actions, and open issues. They must be factual and neutral. They do not capture opinions, long transcripts, or who is having a bad day.
Fourth, send those minutes out inside that critical 24 to 48-hour window. Delay is the enemy of your project record.
And the last one, for any decision that hits scope, fee, or schedule, you have to do two things. One, confirm it in writing. And two, immediately initiate the formal change process your contract requires. Don't do any work until you have that documented approval.
That is an amazing synthesis. But let's leave our listener with one final memorable mantra: the ultimate 4-point guide to accountability for any PM.
This is it. This is the mantra that should be running through your head all day. No decision without documentation. No documentation without an owner, a responsible party. No owner without a due date. And the next meeting starts by reviewing the last meeting's action list.
And that brings us to the end of this deep dive. The lesson, pulled from decades of records at the services of KING-KAMBUF's architecture design studios, is that this seemingly basic administrative task writing, a focused agenda and disciplined minutes, is actually your most powerful and cost-effective tool for controlling risk.
We really hope you take this and apply it immediately. Don't let your next project meeting be another $1,200 cost center. The source material actually suggests 3 specific things you can do, like tonight, to start overhauling your process.
Okay, what are those 3 action items for our listener to explore on their own?
First, draft a 1-page meeting agenda template for yourself. Structure it with that hierarchy: decisions first, then info, then the action review at the end. Second, draft a standardized minutes template that ends with 2 highly structured sections: decisions made and action items, with columns for the owner, task, due date, and status.
And the third one is the real test of skill.
It is. Practice writing a rapid decision memo. Take a messy, unresolved issue from one of your current projects and give yourself 10 minutes. Can you frame it clearly with options, impacts, and your formal recommendation? That's the skill that separates someone who just documents from someone who actually drives a project to completion.
Converting meetings from these expensive, chaotic cost centers into powerful, disciplined risk control tools. That is the absolute essence of effective architectural project management. Remember this: the true lesson of KING-KAMBUF isn't about paperwork. It's recognizing that your ability to formally document process is often more important than your raw talent for design. That is the ultimate test of professional maturity. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.